Hey, it's Samantha with the Rediscover Real podcast. I am so thrilled to be here with you. Are you feeling overwhelmed, confused, or stuck on a hamster wheel from constantly seeking external tools, validation, and buffering in a search for more joy and fulfillment? Rediscover Real means to pull back the curtain and return to the foundation, peeling away the layers of mindsets, identities, and beliefs that no longer serve us. As we choose to grow, move forward, and show up fully as God intended, because at our very core, inside of you, lies everything already, as God created you absolutely perfect. We get to uncover and rediscover what's inside of us, and then to expand into what we're capable of. In this space, we'll dive into topics on personal finance and budgeting, mindset and growth, relationships, network marketing, and entrepreneurship. I'm sure there'll be some laughter and possibly a few tears along the way. I'm on this journey and you're invited. I'm holding out my hand for you. Will you join me? Let's rediscover real together. What if you could teach old dogs new tricks? I am really excited today to talk about what is growth and a growth mindset. And if you're watching on YouTube, I am in a new place with my buddy today. If you don't know, this is Violet. She's mad because I'm on her couch in my office. This is her napping spot. So this is Violet, and she's the team mascot for Rediscover Real or something. She knows more about growth and coaching than I'm pretty sure I do, because she hears everything that goes on in my office. Anyways, all right. So we've all probably heard the saying at one point in time, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And I have heard people my whole life using that phrase with themselves. And that is, when you hear that, you should hear a massive red flag. And if you're, at some point we'll talk about relationships on here, all sorts of relationships. But if you're dating someone or getting to know someone in, as a spouse, and they use that phrase, you should probably run far, far away. Or at least definitely dig into that more, because that is not something that, if you want to grow and develop and build a relationship with someone, there's only two options. You're either growing or you're dying. So, with that little relationship note aside, to come back to you and me and where you're at right now. You're either growing or you're dying. And that's kind of a tough truth, because everyone, they're like, well, I hear it so much, especially lately. Well, I'm just floating. I'm just coasting right now. I'm just going to see where things end up. And that neutral, just like, well, we'll see what happens, isn't actually true. If you think you're just coasting and not showing up and doing the work, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to be going backwards in some area. And now that doesn't mean you always have to be pushing hard in every single area. But if your whole life is at a place where you're just coasting and you're not developing and challenging yourself and failing forward and learning, you're going backwards. Whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in any of those ways. So let's talk about what is a growth mindset, first of all. And I'm sorry if there's background noise. My cat has decided that because I'm sitting over here, she's going to play around my office chair and be crazy. So this is about being real and imperfect. Same with if you're watching this, I did not plan this much mint green. I definitely did not pick this sweater to match the rest of what's on my couch right now. But I love the colors. So, I looked at it and I was like, well, I'm not going to change. This just is what it is. Okay, let's talk first about a fixed mindset. So, what is a fixed mindset? Intelligence is static. And I pulled this up on my phone so that I have specific notes on this. If you have a fixed mindset, you avoid challenges. It's too hard. You expect reward without effort. You ignore feedback. And you're threatened by success of others. So when you think about those things, first of all, you might not do this in every area of your life. What are the areas that you do feel threatened by the success of others? Maybe it's in your health or in your fitness journey. Maybe it's in business or in your career. Maybe it's, emotionally or in relationships, or also there's so many different areas, right? Where do you avoid challenges? Where do you feel like it's just too hard, so you're not even going to try? Oh, I hear that one a lot. Where do you ignore feedback? Or where do you expect reward without effort? Where do you expect to have an incredible relationship without putting in effort, for example? All right, now if you have a growth mindset, intelligence can be developed. You embrace challenges. You believe that you can train your brain. Effort is a path to mastery. And you learn from feedback, and you're inspired by the success of others. So, some phrases besides the old dog, new trick thing. If you have a fixed mindset, failure is the limit to my abilities. I'm either good at it or I'm not. These are all different phrases you might hear. My abilities are unchanging. I can either do it or I can't. I don't like to be challenged. I thought this for years. My potential is predetermined. When I'm frustrated, I give up. Feedback and criticism are personal. Or I stick with what I know. Yeah. All right, now if you have a growth mindset, failure is an opportunity to grow, right? The whole idea of failing forward, it's about getting back up again, right? Thomas Edison, how many times did he fail at creating a light bulb? I can learn to do anything I want. Challenges help me grow. My effort and attitude determine my abilities. Feedback is constructive. I am inspired by the success of others, and I like to try new things. So, there's a lot there. You might want to rewind that or back this up and listen to those again and think about different areas of your life where maybe you have a growth mindset in certain areas, but then you kind of end up fixed in others, or maybe overall. All right, so the last one that I thought was interesting is, so now that we know what a growth mindset is versus a fixed mindset, and you're probably mulling this over in your head a little bit, going, okay, this is great. Hey, Violet. So the importance, why does it matter? Like, I mean, those are phrases, but if you have a fixed mindset, get down. If you have a fixed mindset, you might be looking at this going, well, that's just what my abilities are. You're going to fight for that to be the truth for those things. You're like, well, no, that's just the truth. You might have already turned this off or might be wanting to turn this off because you're like, well, no, that's just the way I am. That's just the way, like, stop blowing unicorn dust up my butt. Like, this isn't true. Um, it's just who I am. You can't teach old dogs new tricks. Um, so a growth mindset empowers people to believe they can develop abilities. Um, that brains and talent are just a starting point. And it creates a love of learning and a resilience that are essential to move forward, right? To have goals. And this is really important. Because here's the whole thing. I mean, this comes back to if you're entrenched in a fixed mindset, you might not have goals. You might just kind of just be trying to survive. We're just trying to get by, right? Now we can apply this growth stuff to our finances, right? To entrepreneurship, to relationships, to our health and wellness, to our mental health, to our emotional health, to how we show up at work or how we do laundry, how we cook, how we take care of our homes and our spaces, all of the different areas. So if you're watching this, yes, the entertainment is real. I didn't think she'd actually come hang out with me because normally she doesn't like it when I'm talking. So we know what it is. You've probably identified some areas where you're like, ooh, okay, I do say that. And hopefully you're someone who does have goals and does want, you have dreams and a vision for what life could be and where you want to go. And that could look totally different. Like, my dreams are probably not going to be your dreams, and that's okay. But can you dream bigger? Do you have dreams? This is where she normally naps. This is why she's mad now. So now that I put my cat to bed next to me on this video and podcast, you're welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, this will be a good episode to check out on YouTube. Oh my gosh. It's like having a child, but a lot less work. But sometimes just as needy. So if you don't have a growth mindset, then the question is, well, do you want one? Because like that sounds like uncomfortable. If I'm supposed to want to take on challenges, if I'm supposed to want to, show up and do work, like you're talking about doing work and showing up and all of these different things. So is that something I actually really want to do? Well, you get to ask yourself that question. But if you're feeling stuck, if you have the desire for more, now some people don't. Some people are just happy living on the hamster wheel in their, nasty, smelly Shrek ogre swamp with their paper straw, and they love having a fixed mindset and scarcity, and it's comfortable and it's cozy with their like, swampy mud surrounding them, and the fear and the scarcity of anything outside of that. And if that's you, I have so much compassion for you. And I know that it's hard to want to step out into that. It feels uncomfortable, but it doesn't actually have to be hard. And on the other side of some growth, it feels so good. Instead of sitting in relationships that are frustrating and every chunk of your life, every area and every aspect feeling like you're not really ever getting there. And that's something I see too with people who have fixed mindsets, is they don't want to try because they believe, and they've accepted the belief that they can never get ahead. They can never get ahead in their finances. Um, you know, moving their body or eating well, it's never enough. Um, and that scarcity can creep in. And so if you're in that space, know that it doesn't have to feel hopeless. You don't have to have big crazy wild dreams, but what if you could dream just a little bit, just a little bit bigger, just a touch? And when you start feeling on the other side of that and working through some of that stuff, and it feels incredible, and you feel so much lighter and so much more peace and joy and less overwhelm and less bogged down and less heavy. Y'all, I walked through this. I sat in this. It felt so heavy for so long because I chose to stay stuck. We're not going to cry. The tears are tears when I look back, because I sat in that for so long and didn't feel good. And then I decided to step into that. And it wasn't easy. And it came with pushback, and it came with people saying, oh, that's a waste of time, or why would you want to do that, or that's all woo woo. I used to think personal development was like, I used to give it the sneer and the side eye, you guys. But here's the thing, I'm going to say it changed my life, because it did, because I chose to let it. I got to choose if I let it change my life. Because here's the thing, when you let something change your life, what if it could change your life for the better? What if it could change your life and you could show up with and wake up every morning with peace and joy and purpose and excitement? And not every day is rainbows and unicorns or sunshine and roses. Life is going to be 50-50. It's going to be 50% good, and it's going to be 50% bad. If you believe in God and if you're a Christian, we live in a fallen world. And if whatever else you believe in, if you don't believe in God, you believe in something, it still applies. Life is going to be 50-50. It's how we choose. We get to choose our thoughts. Our thoughts are not facts. And when we allow thoughts to be on repeat, they become our beliefs. And so if you don't feel good first, that's why I've said that already on, I think, almost every podcast I've recorded. You must feel good first. 80% mindset, 20% tactical. A growth mindset is key in everything. If you want thriving relationships, whether it's with a spouse or in dating or with family or with friends or with coworkers and bosses or with customers and clients, with yourself, so that when you start doing the work and the challenges and you have a growth mindset, it's like when you start to strengthen a muscle, or when you start to do something that becomes a habit. And actually, I'm going to talk about habits in the next podcast probably. But when you start to develop that, it's something you do every day and it becomes comfortable, right? Let's say you get a new job, or you start driving someplace every day. Maybe you're dropping kids off at school. Maybe you're going to a new job. Maybe you're, I don't know, whatever you're doing, going to the lake every day. It's summertime. Maybe you go down to the beach every day. Or maybe it's just when you move someplace new and you start learning how to get to your mailbox. And then it starts, at first it feels a little unfamiliar and you're not totally sure where you're going, or you think you're going the right way, but you don't feel comfortable. It feels a little unfamiliar. You don't know if you're walking to your mailbox, you don't know the sidewalk and like where the like sharp ledges are, or the ledges that stick up that are quote unquote trying to trip you, which is just a mindset. They're not trying to trip you. But it feels unfamiliar. And then after you've done it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, all of a sudden, like, you forget to even pay attention to anything, right? Same with when you, if you move into a new house, right? At first it feels awkward, like moving around, like maybe you get up to go to the washroom in the middle of the night or something, or you're going up and down the stairs in the dark and you don't like know where you're going. And then after a while you like could walk around your house blindfolded, right? It's going to feel unfamiliar. It's going to feel uncomfortable, right? There's going to be that fear of like, if you're walking around your house in the dark, right? Oh, am I gonna like fall down the stairs? Or if you're going down the stairs in the dark, maybe nobody else does this. I do this. And you're like, don't want to miss a step, like not trying to fall down the stairs here. And there's like that, like just little touch of fear of like, ooh, this is like, I know where I'm going. And you kind of have to like, you kind of like, and if you stumble, or if you like, you kind of feel out the step, right? There's that like little bit of like fear and unsureness. That's what it's going to feel like when you step into growth and start stepping into a growth mindset and start challenging yourself and start rewiring your brain and start developing new patterns and new ways of thinking and how you process emotions and how you feel. And maybe you've never let emotions feel at all, which is again another podcast. Maybe you just block them all. It's going to feel uncomfortable at the beginning. Just like when you go to the gym and you're sore at first, if you overdo it, right? You try to like go too far anyways, or maybe you're just sore because you worked muscles and that's the process around that. You shouldn't have to be getting super sore. That is a different topic. If you're getting super sore at the gym, we should chat. So it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar, and that's okay. That means that's a good thing. That means that you're stepping into growth, that you're growing. All right. And it's necessary. I think that's the thing, is like, I really want to make sure this point gets really driven home, is if you want more out of life, you get to step into growth. If you have dreams and goals and things you want to accomplish, it requires growth. And maybe you're like, oh, no, it doesn't. I can mail it home at my job, and my relationship with my spouse is just fine, and my relationship with God is just fine. I go to church every Sunday, and that's it. That's all. I check that box, right? My relationships with my kids, you know, my body, I don't need to work out. I eat fairly decent, right? I'm okay with where I'm at. But what if there could be more? And that's the question, is getting curious and saying, and also to bring that back to, why is it necessary? Because if you're not growing, you're dying. And so things might be quote unquote coasting right now, but the bottom line is they're either going forward or backwards, whether it's in your health, relationships, work, anything. Okay. I feel like I brought a little bit of fire and a little preached a little bit today. But I hope that's helpful, because I wanted to start, before I dig into a lot more of these topics, I wanted to kind of lay that foundation for, okay, what is growth? When we talk about growth and personal development, it's not cute quotes and feel good. I mean, I have this joy up here as my background if you're watching on YouTube, and I have it in a lot of my videos because I want to show up with more joy and more peace. And when I feel joy, that's an emotion that when I feel that, I know that I'm stepping into my purpose and where God has called me to be and how he's called me to show up. And I want to spread more joy and more light. And make more of an impact and a ripple effect for him in so many people's lives. So that's what a growth mindset is, why it's necessary, and hopefully you asked yourself some good questions along the way, and challenge yourself on what areas do I not see myself having a growth mindset in. And I personally, and I was going to wrap it up there, but I'm actually going to share one story. We'll try to keep it to one, but I always think it's interesting hearing people's stories. So when we were going through when I was sharing the fixed mindset versus growth mindset and the different traits or what that looks like, avoiding challenges was a huge thing. I never felt super threatened by the success of others, but that was definitely something that would come up occasionally for me. I've never expected reward without effort. And I want to say that's because of how I was raised and just how I was raised and the beliefs I was raised with. It's too hard would come up a lot. And the one that really kind of hit me, first of all, not wanting to try new things and feeling fear. Like I would literally it would feel so wildly uncomfortable and scary that I wanted to just stick with what I knew. And then the one area that's interesting for me was failure definitely has been a big thing that I've gotten to choose to do mental push-ups around. It's interesting to me when we sit in that fixed mindset, and sometimes we'll have a growth mindset, but then we like slide back or pull back, right? If we're not growing, we're dying. And so if you're like, well, but I was doing that there and that was good, but then all of a sudden I wasn't, and I wasn't feeling good. And we allow things to dictate and to change how we show up and what we allow our thoughts and emotions to determine our beliefs, right? And when they become really cemented beliefs, they become identities. And so for me, that whole thing of not wanting to be challenges felt really, really uncomfortable for me. I wanted to master something and be good at it and be seen as being good at it and not messing up. And there were a few occasions growing up where this would happen. So for instance, one of the hardest things actually that was really challenging was I was big into horses growing up, obviously on the farm, and I still love them to pieces. It's just not the right season to have horses in my life right now. But one of the biggest challenges was, so I got a horse. I finally got my first like real horse when I was 12. And then shortly after that, we got another horse, followed by like 12 more. But we got the second good horse, for my directly younger brother. I've got 3 brothers and we're all 2 years apart. So the one who's 2 years younger than me. The middle brother, the third child. And I love him to pieces. He's one of those really, really cool kids at the time, humans now, adults now, that he is wildly capable and talented and can basically like he could pick up a violin and play Happy Birthday, hearing the song once, like just knowing the tune. And he could get on a horse and he'd be hanging off the horse and doing all these things. Whereas because of a lot of my fixed mindset and fear and perfectionism creeping in and being afraid of failure, I would try to control everything and micromanage. And so he was really great. He was like the natural, easygoing rider that he could get along with whatever horse and all that. And I got to show up and put in the work. And for a long time, I held on to the identity of like, well, you just have to work really hard to get what you want. He just has it easy, which was a total victim mindset and thought. But when I look back at that now, I see where I was so afraid of, I'd built it up so big in my head and I had these beliefs that it needed to be perfect. And I had like this vision kind of for how I wanted to show up, but how it had to be perfectly, like the first time. And then he would just come along and just do it. And it would be natural and he'd be having fun and his energy was great and, all the things. Meanwhile, I was like frustrated and angry and a lot of things that would come up that was quite frankly ugly in me emotionally, because I felt like I was failing and so there was, I never quit because I was stubborn enough not to, but there were a lot of times where I felt threatened by his success, even though that's not an area that pops up. I don't see that in any other area. I don't see that when I go to the gym and there's people who are in better shape than me or, where I want to be and what I'm working towards. I don't feel that with my career and with, doing the different businesses that I do, or even when I was in corporate, that didn't necessarily pop up there as much. But then I got to ask, when I started kind of pulling back the layers on that, I got to really dig into, are others' success bothering me? And because a lot of those other areas of a fixed mindset, I had adopted, right? And so I share all of that just as an example of something that, because I didn't see it in any other place. And so then to examine it in a different way and just go, interesting, okay. And if how we do one thing is how we do everything, then what beliefs, how do I want to rewrite that belief, right? And how can I shift that to a growth mindset? How can I see that as paving the way, right? And also letting go of pridefulness, and that our egos, and we'll talk about egos another day, but our egos are just trying to keep us safe. And that's what it was. Now, they're trying to keep us safe, but that doesn't mean that they're always doing what's best for us, right? They want us to feel good, and to avoid the uncomfortable. This stuff is so fun. Okay, if y'all haven't totally nerded out with me today, welcome aboard. So that is a growth mindset. And so as I share different pieces on growth and my growth journey and unpack some things along the way, I want to just start with this foundation. So go back and listen to the pieces where I talk about what a fixed mindset is versus a growth mindset. And think of different instances in your life where you've had a growth mindset. And if you keep finding examples of where you have a fixed mindset, I do want to encourage you, if you're on this journey, make sure that you're also looking for the good. Look for the places where you have a growth mindset. And I mean, for me, if you listen to the last episode of the podcast, with the tail of the podcast, and failing forward and that success cycle, that is what a growth mindset, like that's built on having a growth mindset, right? Failing forward, learning, improving, re-examining, right? And re-entering and going again and testing and failing and re-entering, like learning and re-entering and all that success cycle. So make sure that you're finding those places. But the podcast has been an area for me that a lot of these things, the fear of failure, wanting to stay comfortable, being afraid of criticism or feedback. And so now being able to step into a place, and since I recorded those first few episodes and we launched the podcast, hearing feedback from people has been incredible. And asking people, what could I improve on? What do you, where do you see room for improvement? Because I see lots, but I also want to make sure that I'm celebrating the good stuff, but being able to accept that criticism and feedback, healthy criticism, not bashing or it being done rudely by any means, but healthy criticism and constructive criticism is a really, really good thing. All right. So let's go teach some old dogs new tricks. It's probably going to be yourself, because we can't influence or teach anyone else. We just get to show up and be a role model for others, whether it's in relationships or anything else. You just finished another episode of the Rediscover Real podcast. My hope is always that you come away encouraged. And if you found this valuable, would you share it with a friend? And be sure to tag me on social media. I love seeing your takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And I would so appreciate it if you took a second to rate and review this podcast so that more people can find it. Also, take a peek in the show notes for a link to my website that has a special gift just for you for listening today. As always, I'm on the journey and you're invited. Let's rediscover real together.